All right. All right, we are live. We'll let some people roll in as we get going here. Everybody that's live, appreciate you joining us. Nice and cold outside. What do we got? 49 degrees in downtown Auburn. We'll let everybody hop in here. We'll talk some iron ball, talk some Maui invitational, all that good stuff. We'll get going here in a few minutes. Score predictions, as always. Score predictions, toss them in the chat. Questions, we'll answer all questions. Toss them in the chat. We'll have plenty to talk about live from session in downtown Auburn. Right here on Magnolia Avenue. Pretty good amount of people kind of popping around downtown, even though it's Thanksgiving yesterday, no home game. People are kind of still out and about and eating dinner and having a drink. Got about half the bar full already. It's 4 o'clock, happy hour 4 to 7. And so if you're in Auburn, come take advantage of that. We will a lot to talk about. Auburn and Alabama, 2:30 Saturday. And then, of course, we can talk tons of basketball, too, with Auburn winning the Maui. And what an impressive show. We might be the best team in college basketball. We'll talk a lot about that as well. So we'll do any basketball, any football. We'll do anything and everything. Got Zach in the back working the point spreads and anything else that we need that pops up that I don't know. Any trivia questions, any stats, Zach can be able to pop those and find them real quick. And again, Session Cocktail, proud sponsor of the Auburn Live Happy Hour, as well as the Auburn Live Football Show, as well as the Modcast. We weren't able to do the Modcast this week. Obviously, Thanksgiving, we just couldn't sort of coordinate schedules on Wednesday to make that happen. But we'll continue those. I'm hoping to get Session involved, by the way, for some basketball shows. I know this is the last football game. I'm hoping to try to do these before basketball games as well. Working on that, just going to see if they want to be a part of it, but working on maybe trying to do something like this before basketball games. Maybe 2 hours before, go for about 30 minutes, and then I could leave here and pop over to the arena and get over there about an hour and a half before game time, something like that. So I'm kicking around maybe doing the 2 hours before the basketball game, do a live show. Just like a pregame basketball show. And we could do it for road and away, obviously. But I'm kicking it around. We'll see. It gets a little tougher because there's so many basketball games. Tuesday nights, some Wednesday nights, Saturdays. It's just the times of the times of the games are so crazy with basketball. It's a little bit harder to kind of plan and schedule. And so we'll have to sort of wait and see what works. But we'll dive in. Like I said, questions, predictions, shoot them in the chat. We'll get through them. Go to auburnlive.com and subscribe. By the way, it's like their last day to go sign up for $1. What is it? It's $1 for the first month. What are we doing? $1 for a week. And then 50% off your first year. So that's crazy. If you go sign up right now to auburnlive.com, you get half off for the next year. That gets you the rest of football. That gets you what, through basketball season, which could be, one of the best teams they've ever had. It's going to get to winter portal, spring portal, football and basketball. I mean, the next 5 months, 6 months will be worth it. But that gets you, your first year, that gets you into next summer. That gets you a ton, man. That's a no-brainer. So go sign up. I think that ends, it probably ends Saturday at midnight. It probably ends after the Iron Bowl. So go sign up, auburnlive.com, 50% off your first year. Go take advantage of that for sure. Go jump in there. And we'll jump into all the conversation. What you got, James? Auburn dominated Maui. It was worth the long nights. This team can go as far as it wants to go. Yeah, no doubt. First of all, man, I was tired. I can only imagine the players. So we covered a 4 overtime game Saturday night. So I'm in the press box till 1:15 a.m. Saturday. Come home Sunday, chill Sunday, try to work, but try to relax. And then my family, we go out of town for Thanksgiving. Of course, then I cover the game Monday night. That's 8 to 9 to 10. I got to bed about midnight. It's Monday night. Tuesday night, the late game, got to bed about 2 a.m. covering these games, man. And then, of course, I'm up because I got a little one. So we're all for Thanksgiving. And so, 6 o'clock, she's up. So there's no catching up. So it was a little bit of a long week. But I think I got home last night. I had to get back into Auburn. And I think I slept for 10 hours last night trying to catch up. But, yeah, Maui, man, impressive. That first half against Iowa State was rough. I think Iowa State, they're a good team. And I think their pressure on the ball surprised Auburn a little bit. Even though they'd already played Houston, they just seemed a little bit tentative for whatever reason. And then on top of that, Iowa State caught fire and hit, was uncharacteristically good for three, and it just kind of snowballed. But you saw, I even posted it in the live chat on the corner when the game was going on. I said, Auburn's going to make a run. Like, just chill out, because Auburn's got too good a coaching staff and too good a team. They were going to adjust to the speed of play. They were going to adjust to things, and then they were going to get comfortable, and they were going to make their run. I didn't know that they'd go on an 18-2 run to start the second half and erase that deficit within 6 minutes. But once they got their feet under them, it was toe-to-toe. And then they made the plays. And then, of course, they blitzed North Carolina in the first half, blitzed Memphis in the first half. And then all they had to do was really hold serve in the second half of those games and won. So, man, I mean, there's not enough good things you could say about how Auburn played it now. Obviously, Janai Broome was unbelievable. I mean, the numbers he put up were incredible. Absolutely incredible. But you go across the board. I mean, Dylan Cardwell's game against Memphis was phenomenal. Miles Kelly stepped up against UNC. J.P. Begis, I thought, did some good things against Memphis defensively, hit a big three. Chad was great the first two games. Was good the second, but I thought the first two games specifically, Chad was really, really good. Denver was pretty solid all the way throughout. I think he's still trying to find his shot consistently. He plays such good defense, and he's doing a really good job at point guard. Chaney had a phenomenal game against UNC, had another good game against Memphis. When he stays out of foul trouble, he's a force. Chaney, that's the only thing Chaney's going to have to just sort of be careful about is fouls. I mean, he still has a tendency sometimes to pick up too many fouls too quickly. He's got to be careful because they need it. They need him out there. But across the board, there's just so many good things that happen with this Auburn basketball team. And you just see how good they are. Look, even if you go back to the Memphis game, I think from about the last 16 minutes of that game, Janai only had a couple of buckets and no assists. Really, the last 16 minutes against Memphis, Janai didn't do much. And yet Auburn still took a 13-point lead to an 18-point lead with a couple minutes. They extended their lead by about 4 or 5 points over the last, let's say, 14 minutes of that game. And Janai didn't really contribute to that. He really settled in a little bit. It was other people's. Dylan scoring 10. Denver scoring 8. There's just so many weapons. If it's not Chad hitting a three, it could be Miles. If it's not Miles, it's Denver. Or it's Janai. Or it's Tahad coming off the bench. Or it's Chaney coming off the bench. Auburn's going to be a tough out all year because they just have a bunch of guys that can get you a bucket. Their offense, they're running their offense at a high level. They're good. I mean, this team is going to be having the best year you can have regular season, and then it's just getting into postseason and trying to get over that hump of playing well in the tournament. This team is going to win a bunch of games. I will say the next couple of games in non-conference are huge because you still got Duke, you got Purdue and Birmingham, and you got Ohio State, Atlanta. Gosh. I mean, if they could win all three, let's just say they go to Duke and it's a hard place to play. Let's say they fall at Duke, but can win in Birmingham and Atlanta. And they run that entire non-conference gauntlet and they only lose one. And then you go into the SEC and you win some of those big games. You're not going to win them all, but you split with Alabama, or you beat Tennessee, or you beat Arkansas when they come in, or whatever it might be. But the non-conference schedule is going to be massive if Auburn can try to get a 1 seed. And why that's important is what's one of the regions? Atlanta. I think I kind of wonder if Pearl didn't also build up and say, I'm going to have a really good team. I want to challenge them. But if Auburn could get to Atlanta, if they can get in the Southeast region and get in the Atlanta spot, and that means you win your first 2 games in the NCAA tournament, and you're going in the Sweet 16 in Atlanta. Imagine how many Auburn fans are going to be inside Mercedes-Benz if Auburn can make that happen. But to get there, you got to be put in Atlanta. And to do that, you got to put the work in non-conference. You got to put the work in non-conference, and you got to not only do you want a high seed, but you want to get rewarded close to home. You want the committee to go, we need to reward Auburn all the way through. We need to reward them with a hot seed, and we need to reward them staying close to home. We've shipped them out west a couple of times over the last 6-7 years. That's what you're playing for if you're Auburn, Duke, Purdue, Ohio State, and then, of course, in the SEC. But, man, if they could just do enough to get to Atlanta and set yourself up to win 2 games, and then there'll be 15,000 Auburn fans inside Mercedes-Benz. Long way to go, but that's kind of thinking ahead. That's sort of one of the things you're playing for. Height-wise, this is the biggest team I think Pearl's had at Auburn. This team has so much grit and athleticism. Give me Auburn 85, Duke 80, and Auburn 30, Alabama 22 tomorrow. Woo. Yeah, I would say height-wise, yeah, I mean, I would say obviously the Jabari Walker team was long, but I'm trying to think. Jabari and Walker were long, but Wendell was very small. Zepp was not small, but Denver's bigger than Zepp. Even JP's got a little more length than Zepp. So that team, you had Jabari and Walker. Dylan was on that team, was a young player, right? But, yeah, you didn't have – I guess you had Al was a young player. He had some length. I think this team probably has that edge because Denver is long and physical. JP's not small. Tahad's the smallest guy you out there. But you toss Chad Baker out there, who's got incredible length. Miles is 6'5", playing the 2. And then, of course, Dylan and Janai and Shaney. And so, yeah, it's different than the teams. Even going back, Jared Harper was smaller. Bryce Bounds, more of a guard. You know, this is a little bit different, mainly at the guard spot. He's had some teams that have had a little bit of length in the front line, but the physicality and some of that length at the guard spots, those 1, 2, 3, I think are in better shape. And so, I mean, somebody like Chad makes a difference. Somebody like Miles makes a difference. What's amazing is what they've done. And Denver hasn't played a point guard in years. He played point guard a little bit his first year in college. JP is a brand new player into Pearl's system. Tahad has never really played point guard in the college level. He did a little bit of 1-2 in high school, but there's so much newness at the point guard position, and they're getting it done. You know, Denver's doing a really good job of initiating the offense. JP, we'll see. I'm just sort of giving him time to try to get some confidence underneath him. I do think the speed of the game is a little bit of a struggle with him, but let's just continue to wait and see on JP a little bit. He doesn't need to be prolific for Auburn. He needs to come off the bench and be an efficient runner of the offense. And let's just see. I think he can do that. Give him a little bit more time to get confidence in this speed of the game. I think he came to Auburn, JP, and got a little surprised. I think he was a little bit shocked, like, whoa, the athletic ability is up a notch. And so I think give him a little more time. But, yeah, it's impressive, man. And then your prediction, Auburn 30-22. Boy, that'd be impressive if you win by 8 at Alabama. Freshman smack talk good, or was it smart? I'm sort of the opinion that it doesn't matter. It's the Iron Bowl. I mean, both teams are going to be motivated. I don't really think that a little bit of trash talk. I don't think Jalen Milroe is like, oh, now I'm fired up. You know, I mean, they got a chance to make the playoff. Still, I mean, they're right there on the cusp, right? If they win, they're going to put themselves in position to try to be that 11 or 12 team. Like, so there's a ton to play for if you're Alabama. I mean, I don't really think there's so much to it. I think stuff like that is, I don't know, it's good content. I saw where Jalen kind of respond a little bit, but I don't think it matters. I mean, it goes both ways. I mean, DeMarcus showing some confidence, Cam showing some confidence. I don't put much stock into it. If anything, here's the other side of that smack talk. The other side of it is everybody's talking about does it fire Alabama up, or does it poke the bear kind of? Maybe it does. The other side of it is the rest of the Auburn team, all these guys that see DeMarcus Riddick go out there and say, I'm as fast as Jalen, or they see Cam say, we want to go in there and take over. And then you see Perry Thompson get on Twitter and put out Peyton Thorne and Milroe's stats, where Peyton Thorne's got better stats. The other side of it is, does Auburn's team come out and go, all right, those guys went out and talked a little bit, let's go back them up. You know what I mean? It could put a little bit of extra on the Auburn side to go, all right, like, okay, like I'm with the attitude, like, all right, let's back them up, let's be right there with them, and let's go back it up. You know what I'm saying? So instead of arriving on Saturday kind of maybe a little bit like, oh, it's a road game, whatever, like, you have no choice now, right? A little bit of smack talk's been put out there. So if you're the rest of the Auburn team, you got no choice. You got to go out there and back it up. And so maybe that sort of, not that they weren't going to try, but it sort of goes both ways, I think, in terms of extra motivation. If you're Jay Crawford or you're Kay and Lee, now you're going, okay, you know, DeMarcus talked a little bit of junk about Ryan Williams, which wasn't that bad. He just kind of was saying, listen, I've seen good players. He's not nothing to me. I mean, it was a little bit of trash talk, but I don't think he literally meant Ryan Williams isn't any good. I think he was just trying to say, I've seen good players. I'm a good player, whatever. I didn't think it was anything crazy, but it forces somebody like Jay Crawford, Kay and Lee to go, okay, I got to go back up my boy. I got to go back up DeMarcus. DeMarcus said he's not that good. Now I need to go try to make DeMarcus look good. So I think some of those external motivations can kind of go both ways. What you got, Hayden? Any word on Hughes' portal strategy? Be aggressive top level? No question. I mean, no question. No question. This is the time. This is the time for Auburn to make a jump in the portal, starting at quarterback, which we talked about. I think there's no question they're going to get one. And I think the people that provide the resources have already told you, listen, you've got the resources, go get one. There's no excuse to not get one. You get to pick it, Hugh. You get to pick the guy, but you're getting one. And we're going to make sure you got $1.5 million. If you need two, we'll make sure you got two. Like, I think Auburn will provide the resources to say, if you want to go get a quarterback and he's asking for $1.5 million next year, we are giving you the okay. Here's the money. Don't feel bad. Don't feel uncomfortable about it, Hugh. Here's the money. Make it happen. And then it'll trickle down from there, and we'll see who they can go get. But I think this is the time. 2 seasons in, if Auburn loses to Alabama, you don't go to a bowl game. No bowl. And so you have to make a jump. There's no excuses next year. You can't. I mean, 2 years is 2 years. You can't go into next year talking about roster and this and that. You got to go. You put together 2 good high school classes, assuming this class finishes out strong. You've got to go get it done in the portal, and that starts with a quarterback. And then maybe some other players. Like, you need a couple of more guys the caliber of Keandre Lambert-Smith. Don't just go get one. You know, don't just go get one guy like Keandre and then kind of get a bunch of other guys that will sort of add depth. Go get about 3 or 4 guys the caliber of Keandre Lambert-Smith. That's what I would like to see. Not just quarterback. Go get me a defensive tackle or somebody that's that caliber. Go get me an offensive lineman that's that caliber. Heck, go get me a running back. I mean, we don't know what the running back position is going to look like. Jarquez is leaving. What is Jeremiah Cobb thinking? You potentially, if you brought Cobb back, you got Damari and Cobb, but why not go after a running back? I'm just saying, go get me a couple of those guys and try to bring them in. Of course, you look back, and guys like Jaron Thompson, well, that's a bigger pickup now than probably when you thought. I think when they picked him up, it was like good player. Jaron's been really good. Dorian Mausi has been way better than I thought he'd be. I thought Mausi would be a role player behind Eugene and Austin. Mausi's been the best linebacker on the team. I think Jaron and Dorian have been even better than we thought they would be when the pickup happened. I think Keyron has been okay, maybe not quite the threat off the edge I thought he was going to be, but he's been good at times. Percy, no. I'm trying to think of who else has maybe sort of been a little bit of a surprise. Robert Lewis, probably not quite the impact I thought he'd have. I thought he'd be a surefire starter. Give credit to Malcolm Simmons for getting better and maybe taking some of those snaps. So it's probably been a little bit of hit or miss. But I thought Jaron and Mausi on defense have been a little bit better than I thought they'd be. Good thing too. That defense has been Gage Keys nowhere to be found. Trill Carter nowhere to be found. Philip Bleedy probably a tad bit better than you thought he'd be. So probably hit or miss across the board on the portal guys. Maybe I'd like to see a little bit better, accuracy there in terms of portal guys. But yeah, I think the money's going to be spent for sure. And a lot depends on who you bring back. I mean, you got to get into this roster and go, okay, who can we convince to come back, and how much is it going to take? What if Keldrick Fox going, hey, listen, I want to be here, but this is what I'm worth. I mean, there could be guys like that you start devoting money to bring back to the program, and then you got to go, okay, now that we've taken care of our guys, now who can we go get in free agency, basically? And so all that stuff just sort of has to play out. Taylor says, what's up, Hoke? Any thoughts on how Auburn's position NIL is for the portal opens? How quickly do you think we make a position on quarterback? Well, I think NIL-wise, I think they're positioned well. I don't think they've spent an extraordinary amount the last two seasons in the portal. Now, the last high school class to go get to seal the deal with guys like Perry and Cam and Riddick, and they've been aggressive on the high school ranks. I don't think they've been as aggressive in the portal. So I'm curious to see, outside of quarterback, how aggressive are they across the board in the portal? Or do they just say, like, do they go get a quarterback, and then is that far and away the most impactful player they get in the portal, and everybody else is kind of maybe a player to sort of fill a role or fill a spot? Or are they going to be super aggressive in the portal, like, we want a quarterback, and then I want 3 or 4 other guys as good as that quarterback? Like, think about Ole Miss going and getting Chris Paul from Arkansas, and Walter Nolan, and the defensive end from Florida that I cannot pronounce his last name. Like, can Auburn go get 3 to 4 to 5 surefire starters, like impact guys in the portal? And what would that cost? Or is it going to be like, go get a quarterback, and then that's where most of the money goes, and then kind of figure out the rest, pair it with a high school class? I'm curious to see if they can. All the attention's on quarterback, all the attention. So I'm curious, can they go land a couple of other really, really high-profile players? Do they have that kind of money, or is it just, hey, you've got the money for a quarterback, but you don't necessarily have the money to go get, 5 guys that are going to cost $3 million on just 5 players? I'm curious to sort of see how that breaks out. And I think the other part of that question was how quickly the quarterback. That's tough to know. There's no question they've already done their homework on quarterbacks that probably will be available, that might be available. I mean, remember the last couple of years, they studied Seth Hennigan, who was at Memphis, really hard. Hennigan didn't enter the portal. They studied Michael Pratt, who was at Tulane, really hard. Pratt didn't enter the portal. So, like, there were some players that they were hoping would enter that didn't, and that plays a part too. So kind of who they're looking at now, I'm sure there's some guys that they're already looking at film-wise that they're like, they feel pretty confident probably will enter the portal. And then there might be a couple of guys that are on the fence that if they did enter, they might move ahead of somebody else they sort of thought about. So one thing I do know is that's probably going to be the number one focus, and they're going to be super aggressive in terms of getting a kid on visit. Like, one thing they've learned, hopefully, is if a kid hits the portal, don't wait around and go, well, all right, well, we'll get him in for a visit 2 weeks. You better do everything you can if he's the guy to get in there. But how quickly does that happen? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. I do think, obviously, the quicker the better. If you somehow had your guy at quarterback that entered the portal quickly, and you thought, I don't need to see anybody else, that's my guy, the quicker you could potentially get a portal quarterback on board and committed, the quicker, just like in high school, you can turn around, just like Duce Knight and his impact, you can turn around to the rest of the portal players and go, we've already got this dude committed at quarterback, come join us. We're going to be really good next year. So the quicker you can get a quarterback on board, the quicker you can use that to pitch everywhere else. Bob, 5 most important positions. Oh, man. And honestly, let's think about this, because I haven't even really dove into that yet. So busy with basketball and obviously football this year. Well, start with quarterback. Obviously, let's say that's 1. I'm curious about running back just because they're fighting to keep Jeremiah Cobb. Like, Jeremiah Cobb's a talented player who is not really, he's been stuck behind 2 other guys. And so I think it's going to take some real work to keep Jeremiah Cobb. What if Cobb left and Hunter leaves? Damari is good, but like, he's fumbled at times and he doesn't have a ton on his resume. And then you've got Alvin coming in as a true freshman. Like, I think at that point, if Jeremiah Cobb were to leave, I think at that point you'd go, okay, let's go get a stud running back. If Cobb stays and you've got Alston, then maybe it's not as big a need. Receiver, not really a big need. Keandre leaves, but if you believe in Perry and Cam and Malcolm, and you've got some playmakers there. Malik Blockton's coming along at defensive tackle. Boy, it'd be nice to get another defensive tackle. I mean, Bobby Trapp's been okay. You're going to keep Keldrick Falk. What do you got at safety? Maybe a safety would be a good one. I mean, Jaron's leaving. Keontae's leaving. Maybe somebody there, but you've got Caleb Harris, who's young. Secondary's pretty young. So I don't know. I'd have to think about it a little bit more in terms of most important positions. I'd love maybe an offensive lineman, like a really, really big impact senior tackle or guard. I think that line needs to be shored up a little bit. You feel good about Connor Liu. But Jeremiah Wright's gone, Percy Lewis, and Dylan Wade gone. So, but if the development of Tyler Johnson matters. So if he can keep getting better, maybe you feel okay about the tackles, but maybe an impact guard. Linebacker, right? You lose Keys and Asante and Maui. That's probably a huge one after quarterback. Maybe you go linebacker. You probably need be nice to get a stud there. Maybe somebody that's got 2 years left. But then again, obviously, then you'd also dive into who else you leave. Does somebody leave on the roster that's a surprise? I think we'll get into that this week at auburnlive.com. Maybe next week, Cole and I will put something together on kind of what we think are the top positions, where they need to go after. Maybe we'll even hop on and do an Auburn Live show on just nothing but where they need to go in the portal. Like, what are the top sort of positions? I think that'd be a good content piece at auburnlive.com. Talking about portal, what's going to happen at corner? Is Champ Anthony coming back? I would think so. Yeah, he actually just posted this week a video about kind of a peek into his rehab a little bit. I see no reason why Champ isn't coming back. No reason why he would leave. Man, I love that kid. Really good attitude. Like, seriously, one of the coolest kids that I've ever seen at Auburn. I've ever had the opportunity to talk with. But I would assume he comes back. Kayad's a sophomore, right? You think he comes back? Jay Crawford comes back. Sylvester Smith, Caleb Harris. I think the secondary is in pretty good shape. Linebackers where I think you got to get rebuilt. DeMarcus Riddick's coming through, but can you go get like a stud? What if you could go get a stud portal linebacker to pair with DeMarcus Riddick? Right, Joe Phillips, I don't know if he's going to be an edge or linebacker. And then who else am I forgetting that they just signed? I know I'm forgetting somebody. I feel like I'm forgetting somebody. But anyway, if you could go get a stud portal linebacker, like a legit, and pair him with DeMarcus, hello. That'd be big time. I would love to go get a stud portal linebacker and a stud portal defensive tackle in the middle, and pair a stud portal defensive tackle with Malik Blockton. Think about bringing Keldrick Falk back. Blockton has another year to develop. And then go get a portal defensive tackle that's an absolute impact player to put alongside Blockton and help raise his level, right? Go get a stud portal linebacker to pair with DeMarcus Riddick. Go get me a quarterback. You do those 3 things, and you're on the right track. And then you can kind of go fill in. But man, those three positions right there, if you could land a legit SEC impact player, it'd go a long way, I think, next year. Bill says this is the weakest Alabama team we've faced since. Oh, and by the way, just that comment, like, what's funny about that comment is it shows how ridiculously good Nick Saban and that dynasty were, because this Alabama team is not weak by any means, right? They're 8-3. They have 3 losses, but This Alabama team beat Georgia. This Alabama team went to LSU, who I know they've had their struggles, but that's still a decent team, and beat the brakes off LSU. Missouri, Brady Cook got hurt in that game, and so that game kind of went downhill, but beat Missouri 34-0. But you have the Vanderbilt game, which Vanderbilt's not bad, but you got, they get beat by Vanderbilt, get trounced by Oklahoma, a terrible loss, and then get beat by a good Tennessee team by like a touchdown. Like, that's not a bad loss. So anyway, I don't think this Alabama team's weak, but it just goes to show you how good and consistent they were under Nick Saban. But I would say certainly, I don't know about weakest, but if you wanted to say this is the most inconsistent Alabama team, yeah, you could say that since probably, oh gosh. I mean, it's hard to not go all the way back to Saban's first year. I mean, every year, I mean, I don't know the last time Alabama entered this game with 3 losses. I mean, the 2010 Alabama team, I think the Iron Bowl was their 3rd loss. I think that year they lost to South Carolina, and they had another loss. So I think they entered the Iron Bowl with 2, lost to Auburn. That gave them 3. But that Alabama team was stupid good. They had NFL players all over the place. They got upset by South Carolina, and maybe they lost to LSU or something. That Alabama team in 2010 was still really, really good. But I mean, I think without looking it up, I don't think they've come in here with any more than 2 losses since 2007, which would be Saban's first year down at Auburn. So yeah, I mean, it's a different deal. I mean, they're good, but that just shows you the consistency that Nick Saban brought to the table. This Alabama team is bipolar. If when they let Jalen Milroe play backyard football, like they're so dangerous because Jalen Milroe is a freak athlete. When he just kind of plays his style, which is like he could take off and run, or he rolls out of the pocket and throws, and like they're crazy good. That's when they took off last year. When they loosened sort of the structure up a little bit, and Milroe was able to just play, they took off last year. Go look at the LSU game a few weeks ago when Milroe just goes crazy. If you can force Milroe in the pocket, they're a different team. If he gets out of the pocket where they start calling quarterback runs and he's finding ways to get back up the middle, and that's when things can kind of get a little bit crazy. And even their defense, right? Vanderbilt gashes them all over the place. Then they go to LSU and they're living in the backfield and putting Nussmeier on his back every play. They're all over Missouri, shut out Missouri. So it's like even the defense is kind of a little bit of both. So it'll be interesting to see sort of what Auburn can get done in the first quarter, what the game plan looks like, and if Auburn can get off to a good start. By the way, we're live here at Session in downtown Auburn. It's starting to get busy. Come down, check them out. 4 to 7 happy hour right here on Magnolia Avenue. Session Cocktails in downtown Auburn as we get ready for the Iron Bowl tomorrow and talk a little basketball, a little Maui championship. What you got, Kenneth? Do you think Darren Reed enters the portal? Yeah, maybe. He's a guy that was obviously highly recruited and well talked about. I mean, I could go back and find quotes of coaches having good things to say about him, but he hadn't really played much. It's just that somebody like that is somebody you watch for, right? Like a pretty talented player, young player, hasn't quite had his opportunity, could probably have pretty good value on the market because he's still got all the potential, but there's really no sign necessarily that he can or can't produce yet. So a decent program probably would love to have a player with the potential of somebody like Darren Reed. And so we'll see. That's probably one to watch out for. See what he ends up doing. Somebody like Jeremiah Cobb probably falls into that mix. So I don't know. I don't know about Darren Reed. Bob says, Percy Lewis has been a huge bust. How is the coaching staff so wrong about him? Yeah, he has been a huge bust. Here's what I would say about Percy. First of all, I can't remember everyone. They missed on Carmona, the kid that went to Arkansas. They missed on – I can't even remember. They missed on a couple of linemen last year before they got to Percy. And And so I think at that point, I don't know how much of a miss it was. I think that they missed on a couple guys. They needed depth at the tackle position. They knew Tyler Johnson was young, but they're not sure. They wanted to be able to move Dylan Wade down potentially. They needed a tackle. And I think at that stage of the game, Percy's out there. He's a big body. Obviously, he's at an SEC school, so you're like, okay, he's at least familiar with the speed of the SEC and what it's going to take. And so I think they just sort of they took him as a little bit of a chance, a little bit of a risk. So I mean, could you say they missed on him? Yeah, I guess. I mean, I think if you take a portal player, you pretty much need to be dead on that portal player is going to contribute. I mean, you've got a bunch of high school is different, right? High school, you don't know how they're going to adjust. Portal's different. You've got game tape in college to look at. You really shouldn't miss on a portal player. I mean, not really. I mean, you should be able to have enough tape on him in college to know what he is. To miss on a portal player is not great because you're also the NIL resources they're going to take up is more than a high school kid. So shouldn't really miss on a portal player to that degree. Like Percy Lewis, Gage Keys, Joe Carter are wow. Like those are terrible misses. Those guys have contributed nothing. I mean, they've played. Joe Carter's played a little bit. Percy's played a little bit, but you could take those guys off the team, and it affects the wins and losses zero. So yeah, it's a bust, but I would say it's a bigger issue, maybe missing on a few other guys to the point where you felt like you had to reach for Percy. I would say though, in August, they knew Percy wasn't here. If you remember, like 2 weeks before the season, all of a sudden we heard the offensive line is a little bit of a question mark. Like Hugh came out and said, "Yeah, offensive line. I'm still waiting for them to sort of." You knew at that point, like they knew then that Percy was not getting it. That's why then you saw the emergence of Tyler Johnson. Tyler Johnson starts the first game, but then he doesn't play all that well. And Percy kind of gets back into the mix. And you kind of wish their offensive line was more settled then the way it is now. Braden Joyner has gotten better, which has allowed them to sort of move some things around. But so I'm kind of with you. It's a bust, but I wouldn't say it's like Percy wasn't their first choice. It's not like they were like, we want Percy Lewis. And then, oh my God, how did we miss on his evaluation? I think he was sort of, okay, we need a guy. He wasn't our first choice, but let's take him as a sort of a flyer and see how he does. And he's like an okay back. He's decent as a backup. Like if he's your backup, but I don't know. He's been bad this year. He's been pretty bad. I think they knew in August that they had an issue. They just didn't have any other options until somebody else developed and stepped up. I'm a little surprised Tyler Johnson hasn't played more. When Percy was playing so poorly, I'm really surprised they didn't just go back to Tyler Johnson. Like, he couldn't have been any worse. But anyway. Drexel says, do you think we have to beat Alabama to keep Duce Knight, or do you think he's locked in? I think that the outcome of the Iron Bowl has nothing to do with Duce Knight. I think it's pretty much going to be about NIL. I think Auburn has the stronger NIL package, last I heard. So I think it just comes down to, does Ole Miss match what Auburn's doing from an NIL perspective? If they do, then you're Duce Knight going, okay, all things being equal NIL-wise in terms of what they promised me, what potentially I could make, all things being equal, well, now what do I do? I could stay in state, be the in-state hero, and I could play for an offense that clearly puts up numbers offensively with their quarterbacks. And you look at what Jackson Dart's doing. There's kind of, I mean, not a guarantee, but there's pretty much no question. Lane Kiffin, if you're playing quarterback for Lane Kiffin, you're going to put up numbers. Or you go to Auburn and be a part of building something. I mean, look, you got Cam and Malcolm and Harry. That's a heck of a talented receiver room. He's being committed. I think they like Auburn. And maybe you look at Auburn and go, look at Auburn's recruiting class as a whole last year and this year. So if you're Duce, you're going, okay, maybe I think I could be a tad bit more prolific at Ole Miss than Auburn. But look at the class as a whole that Auburn's put together last year and this year and what they're going to do next year. Duce is going, I think, as a team and as a future, he's looking at it going, I think Auburn's roster as a whole is going to be better in my second year than maybe Ole Miss's. The way Auburn's recruiting, you could easily make that case. And then you go Cam Coleman. I'd love to throw to Cam Coleman for 2 years. And maybe he wants to get out of state. Maybe he's like, the pressure to play in state, that might be a lot. Maybe he wants to get away from that. Maybe that might be too much. So I think Auburn's in good shape for now. They have made him such a high priority that losing Duce Knight would be hard to put into words how devastating that would be. Not just because Auburn needs quarterbacks, not just a portal quarterback, but they needed a big-time high school quarterback to bring in. They need one every year. So it would hurt not just to lose him, but if you lose him, does it hurt you with anybody else in the class? Does it impact anybody? I'm not sure. Maybe this late in the game, maybe not, but it could lose you momentum with anybody left on the board. It potentially could cause somebody that's committed to look the other way. I don't know. But most importantly is building that quarterback room. You can't lose Duce this late in the game because they'll go find a high school quarterback. They'll go find somebody. But this late in the game, I don't really see how you find somebody that's that good. You're not going to probably flip somebody this late in the game. And so I don't know what your answer to that would be. Ken says, Derek Nix leaves. Do you see any potential candidates? No, not at the moment. Not at the moment. I don't know what he would do. Sorry, I'm reading. I don't know what he'd do there. I mean, if Hugh is sold on calling the plays, then maybe you look. Derek Nix is a comfort hire and a good recruiter. So if Hugh is going to keep calling the plays and stay locked into being the primary play caller on game days, then you maybe look down that line and say, okay, who out there does Hugh feel comfortable with? It's going to be hard to go hire an up-and-coming offensive coordinator if Hugh's going to be the primary play caller. That might be tough to hire, somebody that is building their resume and wants to call plays and wants to be a stud if they know Hugh's going to call most of the plays Saturday. So that's why hiring Derek Nix made a lot of sense, because Derek Nix had never been a play caller before, but had been an OC and been around that. So it made a lot of sense to pair up Nix with Austin and Freeze. Freeze could be the primary play caller. Nix could help sort of coordinate things. So I guess you'd sort of have to look back down that line of somebody maybe that Hugh has worked with that doesn't necessarily have aspirations of being some stud big-time offensive coordinator further along in their career, maybe a little bit, that he can mesh into that room, but that will allow Freeze to still be the primary play caller. I think if you go hire somebody that, like I said, that's up and coming or that is ready to take a next step and be a primary play caller, I don't know why they would come, one, and if they did, I don't know how that would work, if that would be a good marriage. So it feels like if Nix did leave, it'd sort of go back to the same line of thinking. Who's he comfortable with that doesn't need to be the primary play caller? If Freeze is going to keep doing it. If Justice Harry commits to Auburn, will he be looked at to play right? Oh, no doubt. No doubt. That dude's a monster. That dude is a monster. Let's see where Justice Terry is ranked overall. I haven't looked at his exact. He's obviously a 5-star. Where is he at? I'm looking it up now. Where's he? Number 9. Number 9 overall. Obviously committed. Number 9 overall, Justice Terry. 6'4.5", 245. Actually, all the predictions are to Georgia. I'm sorry. Not committed, but everybody just assumes Georgia. But, yeah, I mean, he's ranked, I don't know, on 3 is kind of the outlier there. He's ranked top 10 at his position everywhere, and then he's ranked 24th at his position by On3. Recruiting rankings are always funny to me because I could find players that are like that. I could find players that On3 ranks high and others don't. But it's funny how one site thinks there's 15 other defensive linemen tackles better than the other. But either way, the guy's a stud, and he is strong as all get out. Like his physically, he already looks the part. You get him somewhere in January, let him go through spring and summer, and yeah, he's playing. He's playing some ball. James says, I know you're not a recruiting guy usually, but is Offord Auburn stories? Yes, absolutely. Listen, I made a comment on the corner at least 6 weeks ago. Somewhere around maybe Arkansas, Oklahoma game, something like that. I think Offord came for a game, and I made the comment in a thread then that he was going to be a Tiger. And nothing's ever changed with me. So I don't really get into the RPM predictions, but I think he's been trending to Auburn for months. And what I was told from September on is that if he was going to flip, it was always going to be late in the process. He was not going to be flipping in September or October. If he flipped to Auburn, it was always going to be very, very late. Auburn's done everything they needed to do throughout his recruitment to get him. They've done everything they need to do. And so I think it's been trending this way for a long time. And I think it's one of those things that Auburn has been okay and comfortable with. Like, okay, we're not going to pressure him like Duce. You know, you needed Duce to make a decision. Or, you know, maybe there's another position where you felt like you needed to pressure the kid and say, we need to know because we need to move on. Offord wasn't really that. I mean, Auburn has a good young secondary. And so Offord, to me, was never a player that they needed to press in September or October and say, hey, Nahem, we need an answer. Otherwise, we need to move on. Like, there wasn't really that, I don't think, that desperation from Auburn there. You have a pretty good young secondary. You've got some good players there. And so I think Offord was one of those guys that you could afford to just do everything you're supposed to do throughout and then just be comfortable with, hey, that's fine. Take your time. And if you want to come, we'll do it. We'll do it at the end. But I think it's sort of been trending that way. And probably some private conversations too recently, certainly, where it's like, hey, I think Auburn felt really good about flipping him. And they probably told him, hey, listen, let's just do it late in the process. There's no need to flip now. And then now you got to put up with a month of Ohio State and Oregon trying to flip you again. Just stay committed. And then towards the end of the process, flip and help build momentum at the very end type deal. So, yeah, I think he's Auburn's to lose. I'd be shocked if Auburn doesn't sign him. I've always sort of felt like that. Auburn's just put in so much work to get him that losing him would have been a bummer. I mean, I think it was 2 months ago at a luncheon here in Auburn, Hugh Freeze made sort of a comment about we're not done. You know, we want the number one player of the state. He made some kind of sort of vague comment that alluded to Nahem Offord. So that's one that's like Cam Coleman last year, where you're like, we're literally not giving up. You can commit wherever. You can say whatever you want. We're going to do everything we can to get you. Nahem was one of those guys this year. Certainly in state, he was kind of that guy that I think Freeze and the staff just felt like, man, number one player in the state, can't lose him. Got to get him. But he's another one that's really close with Duce. Like, so he's another one that if for some reason, if Duce were to flip, does that impact Nahem? I think this late in the game, probably not. Again, I would listen to Jeffrey and Cole. I still think Auburn probably can flip Nahem without Duce, but Duce staying committed would certainly help. Jalen Carter. Zach says Jalen Carter is the comp to Justice Terry. That's crazy. Well, if that's the case, what didn't Jalen Carter go number one? We'll go here for a little bit. Man, time's flying. 4:50. Session's packed, man. They're getting crowded in here. Come to Session Cocktail downtown Auburn right here on Magnolia Avenue. Get you a happy hour drink 4 to 7 as we get ready for the Iron Bowl. Talk some basketball, that good stuff. What you got, Kenneth? Offord has a brother at Tulane that plays running back. Do you know how good he is? He's pretty good. He's even a guy that I've heard a little bit about. Does Auburn maybe go get him as a package deal? I haven't dug a ton on that. Nahem Offord. Let's see what his stats are. If I can find him. I've heard him a little bit. What the heck? Well, I'm trying to find his roster here. His spot on the roster here. I can't remember what year he is. What would be awesome is if Tulane's roster would slow web page. What's that page? Let's see. It's gotta be what number is it? Offord. Well, hold on. Still looking. Why can I not find it? I literally can't find it. I don't understand that. Anyway. Yeah, for some reason it's not there. I can't find him anywhere. It's crazy. Anyway, yes, he has a brother, and we'll see what happens in that situation. But I don't know why I can't find his. Yeah, I don't see him either. Unless he's got a different last name. But I don't know. I thought he was at Tulane, but I can't find him either. So anyway, that's weird. I haven't really dug into it. I've just sort of talked peripherally with some people about, oh yeah, he's getting a brother. He's got a brother at Tulane. But I've never actually gone up and looked for the guy's stats. Let me see if I can find it. Anyway, I can't find it. But yes, he has a brother, and maybe bringing in 1,300 rushing yards and 15 touchdowns this season. Yeah, I don't know why I couldn't find him. It's really weird. But yeah, so maybe he's a potential package deal. We'll have to wait and see. We'll have to wait and see. What else we got? Any more Iron Bowl predictions? Shoot them in. Last few minutes we're here. Anything else prediction-wise? What you got, Bob? 27-24 Auburn. Ooh. So my prediction was 27-21 Bama is what I ended up going with. I think Jeffrey had it 31-17 Alabama. Cole didn't get me his prediction in time, but he texted me later 21-17 Alabama. So we all went Alabama. Cole and I have it one score. I almost went 27-24, but I went 27-21. I think this has got a chance to be a really good game. I think for Auburn, contain Milroe the best you can. Which look, Marcel, the thing lost in the A&M win. Auburn beat A&M, but man, Marcel Reed went off. Marcel Reed threw for 300 yards and had about 70 yards rushing. So if you do that in Tuscaloosa, you're going to lose. You're not scoring 40 in Tuscaloosa. So, or even 31 in regulation, you're probably not getting there. So if you let Jalen throw for 250 and rush for 70 or 80, you're going to lose that game. I don't like your chances anyway. So contain Milroe the best you can. Which Oklahoma just did a great job of. They were all over him. Build your offense around Jarquez. Don't get cute. Don't try to. I know Cam and Keandre are playing well, but do not think that you can just. Those guys are going to dominate. You still got to go through Jarquez, running the football, giving him a couple of passes out of the backfield. He needs his 20-plus touches. One, to run the football. Look, Oklahoma, that's all they did. All Oklahoma did was run the ball on Auburn, on Alabama. So you got to build that thing through Jarquez, run the football, shorten the game a little bit, work through Jarquez, and then go to Cam and go to Keandre and go to some of the other wideouts when you can. Take your shots with those guys, but don't forget you got Jarquez back there. You're on the road. Don't get cute and start trying to fire downfield. Remember that you got Jarquez. So get Jarquez involved, then be smart about your shots to Cam and Keandre. Go deep when you have a chance, but be smart when you go to those guys. Take your shots, fine, but still remember that you got a workhorse back there. And then you work through Jarquez and can work on containing Milroe a little bit. I think Auburn will be in the game. I think, like I wrote that, look, midway through the third and into the fourth, I think Auburn will be there. Unless they go in there and are overconfident. In other words, if Auburn thinks that because they beat Texas A&M, that they got all their problems figured out, and they go in there to Alabama like, well, we're just going to show up and we're just going to play like we did last week, and they get overconfident because they have one good game, that's a really bad recipe. That worries me a little bit. I don't think they'll think that because they've had so many rough patches this year. They certainly shouldn't think that. But that would, they need to go in there confident but not overconfident and stay focused. But if they were to go in there a little overconfident and try to, and Hugh as a play caller is overconfident and they sling it around early and turn the ball over and make some mistakes early, and you let Jalen Milroe run free a few times on offense and you get 14-0 with that crowd and that environment, you're going to be in for a long day. Long day. You got to get out of that first quarter kind of unscathed. 7-3, 7-7. Get out of that first quarter, let the emotions die down, get football, and then get into that middle third quarter. And I think they'll be in it. I really do. Then it's going to be down to who can make the plays in the fourth quarter. Can you make the plays if you actually win the game? I don't know. You got to give the home team the edge there. So I think it'll be competitive if Auburn will continue to play well. I think it can be competitive, but I got to give Alabama the edge. Just got to. It's a big one, man. I mean, going to a bowl game is not really the reward. Like Auburn playing in a random bowl game at 6-6 is not, other than just to be like, we made a bowl. That doesn't really matter a lot to me. It's more, to me, it's more about the additional 14 practices that you can get. Now, the only maybe good thing about if they don't make a bowl is the staff can immediately just do nothing but recruit. They can do nothing but finish out recruiting. They can do nothing but pour over tape portal players because the season's done. Man, they could just do nothing but look at portal, and that would be nice. They're not trying to work and prepare, plan a schedule for bowl and practice, and then also recruit the portal. They could just literally 24/7. They're doing nothing but having conversations with their team, the roster, and evaluating portal players. And so that's not a bad thing. But really making a bowl is just about those practices. One look, 31-20 at AU. Ooh, they go in there and beat this Alabama team by 10. That's pretty remarkable. I mean, that 2010 team needed a comeback for the ages to win. Gosh, even go back to 2006, which was the next time Auburn won in Alabama. Auburn was a much better team in 2006. I think the final was 21-15 or something. Like, it was a fight tooth and nail to win that one. 2004, Alabama wasn't a particularly good team. Auburn went undefeated. That was a fight tooth and nail type of game. 2002, Auburn was the underdog, fight tooth and nail. Even go back to 2000. Auburn won the division. Alabama didn't go to a bowl, I don't think. And Auburn won 9-0. Now, that was a sleet game. I was actually at that game. It was sleeting and cold. My point is, multiple times Auburn's gone to Tuscaloosa and been the better team, and it's been an absolute dogfight to try to win there. I mean, and it's been the same at Jordan-Hare. Listen, the last two trips, Alabama's gone into Auburn as the much better team, and they should have lost both games. It's just not going to be easy going in there where Auburn's been the better team, and it's been everything they can do. And so it's just a place that hasn't treated them all that kindly. So we'll see. Any more thoughts, questions, predictions? Get them in there. in these last couple of minutes. If it's not, we'll get out of here. But if you got any more comments, any more score predictions, basketball questions, shoot them in. If not, we can roll. Hey, by the way, Zach, I think you're right. Makai Hughes. I think that's right. I don't think his last name is Alford. I think it's a different last name. It probably makes sense why I couldn't find him. Makes a lot of sense. Well, go to auburnlive.com. Like I said, take advantage of the $1 for a week, but actually take advantage of 50% off for a year. I mean, that's just a no-brainer. Portal season, winter and spring, gets you through basketball season, gets you through, all the good stuff, man. So go take advantage of that offer. I think it ends tomorrow. So go jump on auburnlive.com and take advantage of that. If you're watching this on YouTube, subscribe and turn on notifications so that when we have new content, you'll be able to see it. There'll be a lot of good shows coming as recruiting picks up and the portal picks up, a lot of good shows to watch and all that good stuff. All right, Zach, I think we'll call it. We'll get out of here. It's 5 o'clock. We went for an hour. Appreciate everybody hopping in and shooting some questions and comments our way. Session's getting really crowded now. So come in here. If you're in Auburn, come have a drink before or after dinner. Come check it out. We'll see you guys on the corner message board at auburnlive.com tomorrow, talking about the game. We'll see what happens. And then we roll into Auburn at Duke in basketball next Wednesday. So busy next few days at auburnlive.com. Come be a part of it. We'll see you guys.